We're breaking down walls, tearing apart the lies. Together we'll stand, watch the whole world rise. Faith transcends boundaries, uniting every heart. In this movement of love, we're all taking part.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Vision Podcast. Guys, welcome back so much. Thank you so much for being here. This is episode 20. This is huge. We are almost to the goal of episode 21. And I'm excited about this. I'm excited about today because today is just me again. But I just wanted to come here and talk to you about some of the things that I feel like God's been speaking to me and brought my Bible with me. So we're going to be, jumping into that, which is great. So you can kind of consider this sort of a Bible study, sort of just an opportunity for us to get to know each other and for you to hear what God has been putting on my heart. So thank you for being here. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and let's dive into it. So the thing about me showing up today unprepared is that what I've been realizing in this is that is a part of obedience. Is sometimes you're just not gonna have what you need, but that's okay because God doesn't always ask us to have what we need, right? He equips the called. He doesn't call the equipped, not all the time at least. And in that, so that's why I want to talk to you about it. Is speaking from my heart about this sense of obedience that we are supposed to have as believers, right? This voice that speaks to us, this spirit that drives us sometimes into the wilderness. But that's the point, because obedience doesn't wait for everything to line up. It moves in the dark. It's the whisper. It's the still small voice that God just uses to drive us to where He wants us to go, to fulfill the calling that He's placed on our lives. And that's amazing. I mean, there's probably no better place to be than in this open posture of acceptance of, okay, God, what do I do now? Where am I going? And so, as we dive into that, this is a call to rise, right? To move when it doesn't make sense, and choosing just to be present over perfection. And so that's what I want to dive into. So we're going to talk about obedience. We're going to talk about what it looks like, what it's not, what it should be. And so let me start with this. What if obedience isn't about what you avoid, but more about what you step into, right? Because a lot of the times we look at obedience and we think about, oh, don't do this, don't touch, don't listen, don't whatever you want to put onto it, right? Don't watch porn, don't cuss, don't smoke, don't drink. Like, that's not obedience, that's abstinence. I mean, and there may be benefits to some parts of that, but that's not what obedience is. And I want you to hear that in the scriptures, right? So let's look at Genesis 12, verses 1 through 4. I think I'm just going to focus on verse 1 here. And that says, the Lord said to Abraham, get out of your country, from your family, from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. And that's it. Nothing preparing him, nothing, no plan, no 5-year plan, no SMART goals, no anything that could have prepared him for this, except here's what I want you to do. Now go. No details, but he didn't obey because he had the blueprint. And that's the beauty thing, because he did do what God asked him to do, but he didn't obey because he had the blueprint. He obeyed because he trusted the voice that was within him. He knew that God was calling him to go and do something that would change the lives of others. And if you look down in the scriptures, it says, I will make you a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great. You shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you. But before he even told him that, he just said, go. And so that's what I want you guys to realize here and hear me, is that obedience isn't about tiptoeing through life, trying to have it all together, or try to how to behave, or asking God, hey, I need you to clarify what it is that you want me to do. No, sometimes it's just stepping out to build what only trust can build. And because you weren't just called to manage your impulses here, you were called to move mountains. to push through, and you weren't called to hide behind fear of saying, I mean, because look at the fear that this man probably had. Leave your family, get out of your country, leave your father's house. Those are so monumentally big for somebody that it almost doesn't even make sense to do it, because we hide behind that. Well, I've got my wife and my kids, and I'm not telling you to leave them. I'm telling you, look at what God is calling you to do and trust him that if you leave what you feel as is your comfort, that he will provide the way to care for them too. And I had to do that in my own life with my oldest son, Declan. I mean, I ended up having to sign over custody for him, even though what I felt in my heart was that it would be best for him to be with me. I had to trust that God had him in his hands too. And he's shown faithful. He's restored that relationship with my son. I have custody of him, partially now. And that's been a journey, but it's been great. I guess the whole point in me saying any of this is I want you to just really look at your life and say, what if the shift that I have been praying for, that you have been praying for, isn't waiting on another prayer or another ask for clarification? It's just your first step. Okay. I really want you guys to hear me in this. I want you to look at obedience, not as what you don't do, but as what you are going to do. Yeah. So this next part, let's talk about what some of us don't really want to say. That the delay that we've been experiencing in our life and our calling and our mission and our movement isn't because God hasn't clarified it yet, but it's because we haven't taken the first step. Not out of rebellion or evil. We're just hesitant. We're stuck. We're scared, still praying for clarity or confirmation on things that we already know. Like, God has put this in you. You know what it is. It's time to start moving on it. And I think this scripture right here is one of the most profound examples of that. And it comes from Luke, and we're coming out of Luke 5, verses 4-6. It says, and this is where Jesus has walking up to Simon and Simon Peter, and they're fishing, right? And they've had a whole night of just not catching any fish. When he had stopped speaking, he said to Simon, "Launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch." But Simon answered and said to him, "Master, we have toiled all night and caught nothing. Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the net." And when they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and the net was breaking. So they signaled to their partners, the other boats, to come help them, and they came and filled both the boats, and so much that they began to sink. And that is it. God, when God called me to make this podcast, one of the most prevalent things that I heard in my voice, heard in my mind from his voice, was cast a wider net. And that's why I'm doing this on the internet, not, just on the street or anything. I'm doing this because I want this is the widest net I could think of, right? And so I want to be like Peter in this. I want to say yes. I wanted to say yes, and I said yes because this is what he said, to cast your net. And just like Peter said, I'm frustrated, I'm tired, but I'm going to do it because you said so. And that's where it breaks open. That's where the floodgates hit. Not because Peter got more skillful, not because the sea changed or the weather changed, just because he obeyed. He made the step, even though he was trying and trying and trying and trying and trying, and things weren't happening. And that's how I feel in this right now. But I'm still going to show up. I'm still going to do it. And all of a sudden, the nets are breaking. The fish are piling in. The friends are coming. The more boats are coming. They're just trying to figure out the overflow is real. And it all started with just this small yes. Okay, God, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. And so that's the thing. What if your overflow is on the other side of a sentence that starts with, because you said so? You're praying for permission, but you're ignoring the instruction. You're asking for harvest, but still holding on to the seeds. You want doors to open, but you haven't walked through the last one that God cracked open for you. You know, the delay isn't always demonic. Yeah, there are examples of that. But majority of them, it's just disobedience. And I tell you, breakthrough doesn't come before obedience. It comes because of it. So I want you to hear me in this. You're not waiting on God to show up. He's waiting on you to move. Okay, so now I want to move to the third point in this. And this is really the heart of everything I think the vision is about, right? Because obedience is, once you get the concept of this and fully understand it, as far as an action is concerned, then you can really start to look at what's going on inside, right? Because obedience isn't just a direction for you. It's a restoration, right? Because God isn't just calling you to walk these paths out to build something for him. While that may be the case, he's also restoring you in the process to be able to steward it. And let's look at Isaiah and the way that he speaks on this. He says that your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. Whenever you turn to the right hand or whenever you turn to the left, this is the voice you will hear. Because this verse wasn't written to holy people who had it all together. Okay, I want you to hear this. This verse was spoken to a rebellious nation, people who made plans without God, ran to Egypt, trusted power instead of presence, trusted their own preparation instead of presence, right? They disobeyed because they weren't moving forward. That's it. Guys, this is such a simple concept of like, if you want to be obedient to what God has called you to, then you just need to start moving your feet. And that's such a beautiful revelation that you don't have to sit there and continuously wait for confirmation, or, you know, if you're familiar with the story of the dew on the ground and the blanket of like constantly asking for signs, like you don't have to do that, guys. God has already spoken to you, right? And even if you need this as your permission, like I'm telling you, this is what the Lord has spoken to me, and I'm speaking it to you that it's time for you to move. It's time for you to go. It's time for you to pick up your mat and walk, right? I guess if you want to be healed, you can. If you want to stay where you're at, then stay. I mean, nobody's going to force you out of this. Continue to go to church on Sundays and serve. And, you know, I'm not diminishing that, but I am saying that there is more to your calling than Sunday mornings. Okay? And there's no shame in that. There's mercy. There's mercy because God sees the struggles that we go through in this life. He sees the hurt and the hardship and the ache that it takes to even, you know, sometimes get up in the morning. Guys, I struggle with depression and, you know, having a full-time job, being a full-time dad and husband, and then also full-timing this. It's hard. And a lot of times I want to just stay complacent and say, you know what, just give me back to my routine so I can be comfortable. And then I'll feel like I'm close to God. But that's not the case, right? That is ultimately a performance because it doesn't give you proximity to God. Guys, I want you to really grasp this concept. And it's kind of, you know, even hard for me to articulate at times because I understand it in my spirit that this is an identity, right? And I hate to be cliche, but a kingdom identity, right? Because we want to often think that the kingdom is something that we'll get to eventually, but that's not the case here. God called us to be the kingdom now. And I really feel like this understanding of obedience is something that's going to help us get there as a collective whole. Because identity doesn't have to be this new something that you never were. Identity in this is restoration of who you were always meant to be. And you need to return to that, to the one, because like I said earlier, that God is calling you to build something for him so that you can steward it well. But if you're not letting that shift, if you're just building it and not getting prepared on the inside to be able to steward it, what are you doing? Like, God is not calling us to just be servants in this. He's calling us to be friends of him, to turn this over to us, just like he did with Adam when he says, I am giving this to you, subdue the earth. We are supposed to do that now. We are supposed to subdue it, right? So when we hear that voice and we hear it say, this is the way, walk in it, instead of sitting there and asking for clarity, guys, we just got to start walking, right? Because it's ultimately the core of obedience is how you are going to realign with the name that was given to you by God. It's how you start hearing the whisper again, not the scream of the world or the shame of your past, but the whisper that says, this is the way, walk in it. And that is all tied together with who God is, who you are, and who you're meant to be. Right? Even if you limp, even if you're slow, even if all you can do is crawl, like go, even if you're unprepared, if you're scared, step out. You think Peter wasn't scared when Jesus asked him to walk on the water? Like there's a story that I have. I went on a vacation one time with my wife and kids, and we were out at the beach, and I was like, hey, Colleen, I'm going to go to the beach by myself alone. And I walked out there, and it's nighttime, just me, the moon, the stars, the water. Like, it's a beautiful thing, right? I got sand in my toes, all of that. It was amazing. But I walked up to the edge of that water, the ocean, and I thought to myself, all of these waves, this vast body of water that I could completely be lost in. How in the world could Jesus ever ask me to walk on something like this, knowing how scary it is? And in that moment, I didn't step in the water. I didn't walk on water. I know you maybe wanted to hear that. But it's every moment you have to ask yourself, what is the water that God is calling you to walk on? And are you staying in that boat, or are you going to get out? Right? Because we cannot shrink back against the things that we're afraid of. God said he has overcome the world, and we have to be more than conquerors in that, right? And I'm throwing out scriptures and cliches, but once you get in the word gets in you, and that's just how it comes out. So I want you to hear me, guys. There is a concept of identity and obedience and how it all kind of ties together and how we can be that together, right? And that's why I've been working on some things for the vision, specifically a new journal that I've been coming out. And this whole episode isn't a pitch for that, but I want you to hear me in that, because I've wanted to create some things that you can actually tangibly go through and put your hands on to help you start realizing some of the concepts that I'm throwing out. Because this isn't an easy thing. It's not a task that you can just check off and say, oh, got my God-given identity, I'm moving forward. Like, that's not what it is. This is a journey, guys, and I want you to walk on it with me, right? So these are things and questions that I've done within myself and discovery processes and whatever it may be, and spiritual awakenings that I've had to what God has been saying. And so I want to extend that to you. It's called the Uncharted Identity Journal. And it's not a product, but it's a path. It's not a map, right? Because I can't tell you where you're going to go with your identity. Only God can give you that. But it's a 30-day devotional journal, right? And it's 30 days of excavation to dig into what's going on, what's been holding you back, what's been just disguising itself as calling, but it's really been comfort. It's 30 days of peeling back shame, peeling back performance or fear or whatever it may be, to rediscover the voice in you that's always been calling and whispering and saying, this is the way, walk in it. And I get so frustrated, man, with all the social media pastors that are out there, and frustrated. Like, it just, honestly, it pisses me off, man, because every time that you see these viral pastors or viral people on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, whatever it may be, man, like the whole premise of what they're doing is they're just throwing you cliches that you can grab onto and like. But I don't see any of them trying to dig out the identity that God has given you to restore the kingdom to what it's meant to be. Right? Because you don't need more hype. You need space to listen. And the journal that I'm trying to create is that space. And even the vision. I mean, all of this is coming together to create that space to try to build this kingdom up. So with that being said, let me close this out. I think I'll start with a question. And the question is, what's the last thing that God told you to do? For me, it's create this. No idea what it looks like. No idea what I'm doing, but I'm here. And I'm grateful for it because God called me to this. And I know he will equip me, and I know he'll make it what it's supposed to be. All right. But what is the last thing that God told you to do? Was it a phone call, an apology, a dream that you've just shelved, or a boundary you need? Something. I mean, whatever it is, hear me. You're not waiting on a breakthrough in this season. Obedience is the breakthrough. Stepping out is the breakthrough. Not the result, not the reward, not waiting to get to heaven. That's not obedience. The act of obedience is the moment everything will start to shift. Just taking that first step. Okay? So I want you to do it because God isn't asking us for perfection. He's asking for yes. Yes, you can do it, guys. I believe in you. So if this hit your spirit, don't just feel it. Follow it. Follow it. Go to patreon.com/thevisionpodcast. You can get a full digital copy of the Uncharted Journal for free before the print version drops. You'll be walking out your yes day by day, step by step. Just give me 30 days just to hear what I'm saying. Give me 30 days just to try this out, just to move into something that looks more like obedience than all of the no's that you've given yourself. Because you weren't just called to survive. You were called to build. And obedience, guys, that's your first brick. We're building this thing out. Thank you for hearing me. If you're still here, like I said, go to patreon.com/thevisionpodcast. I'm going to be, anybody that signs up is going to get a free copy of this journal. And I'm doing this because I want you to come along this journey with me, guys. I'm not doing it for money. I'm not doing it for clout. I really don't care. All I want to do is empower my fellow believers to start making a difference in the world alongside me. Wherever you may be in this world, God has equipped us to do what we need to do, and it's time for us to start moving. Yeah. So I love you guys. Make sure you check out thevisionpodcast.com. You can see everything that we've got going on there. Also shop.thevisionpodcast.com if you want to support financially. And then also, again, I'll drop the link, patreon.com/thevisionpodcast. Go there, sign up. You don't have to get on the paid tiers to get this journal. If you want to start supporting that way, you can. I'm going to have other things besides this journal on there that will be beneficial to your life, beneficial to building who you are, and awakening that realization that you are a called child of God and that you have the power within you to make a difference in this world. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you next time, guys. Be blessed.
We're breaking down walls, tearing apart the lies. Together we'll stand, watch the whole world rise.